Hey, my friends. So I am coming to you live on Facebook from my phone because I was trying to do this on the computer and share my screen and I was having some tech problems. So I am going to be a little bit low tech because I really wanted to share this with you before you get into the whole family holiday. And some of you may already be with family and, well, if you have a chance to step aside and watch this, it might be helpful. I just wanted to give you some training on how to spot harmful people. And I used to say difficult people, and I think that's tricky because some of us have difficulty with a person, but it doesn't mean that they're technically difficult people. And by that, I mean jerks, like people who just really chronically are unkind to you or have problems. So I'm going to do this lo-fi thing and I'm going to flip my screen back and forth so you can stare at my computer so you can see the things I wanted to show you. And this is going to be a short training because I've got places to go. And if you want more, I can share more. But I promised to give this to you before the holidays, so I wanted to share it with you. So let's start here. Oops, that's not the right button. Let me see. If I just have to turn my screen around, oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, this is the first place we start. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, first make sure you are not, in fact, just surrounded by assholes. So this is where I start because I think a lot of the time people that I work with and people I know think that maybe they're just not being kind enough or supportive enough. And the truth is, if you're asking that question a lot, probably you're not the issue. People who are true harmful people don't tend to ask themselves that question. They just tend to go around kind of being abusive. So we're going to just talk about a few things that you can keep in mind. So when we're talking about harmful people, we're talking about difficult characters, specifically people who have things like narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, or antisocial personality disorder. If you are not a therapist or you don't really know these terms, that's okay. That's why I have this sort of below the line experience here, where you might just think about them instead about as constant victims or martyrs, or people who gaslight a lot, or they're perpetually angry and blamey. I was just rewatching the Disney movie Tangled, and it's really a fascinating portrayal of a gaslighter. If you ever want to see it, it's on Disney Plus streaming. This is not an ad for them. I'm just saying that's where it is. But if your kids have it or something like that, it's a good example. Like the mother witch figure she's a really good example of a person who probably has a personality disorder. She's very gaslighty and blamey. If you don't know what gaslighting means, I really recommend you look it up. There's people who can define it much more thoroughly, and I'm trying to be brief and just give you some things that you can watch out for. So, difficult characters. We're looking out for people who are victims or martyrs a lot of the time, who are gaslighters, who do a lot of blaming, a lot of making things your fault all the time, like no acceptance of personal responsibility. I'm not saying that issues aren't a two-way street, but if someone's doing it all the time and it's never their fault and they never take responsibility for anything, they don't really apologize, that's a person who's harmful. So here's some red flag behavior. And this is kind of a lot, so I'm going to leave it here for a minute. So red flags to watch out for that really indicate people who are harmful. People who don't take responsibility for their behavior, meaning whatever they do, it's never their fault. They deny the facts or your experience. They say, you don't feel like that. Why are you being so sensitive? That's not what I said. Even when you have the receipts, even when you have examples, like literally you exactly said that. I never said that. Okay. People who go in cycles of sweet and sour behavior, like, oh, sweetheart, I just love you. You're so amazing. And then they get really sour on you. People who don't soften when you offer vulnerability. This is a huge red flag because some of these others can happen in moments and you might think, well, could this person be harmful? Or sometimes I'm like that. Could I be a really harmful person? I'm not talking about occasionally. I'm saying that these are regular occurrences, but not softening when someone offers vulnerability is one of the biggest flags you can look for. Sorry, I'm kind of shaky. I'm trying to support my arm here. Having low empathy for others and little desire to have empathy is also a huge red flag. Being highly hypocritical, like it's okay for them to do it, but it's not okay for other people to do it. You might see a lot of this in our current political administration, but let's not get into that. Has more than a few crazy people in their past, meaning when they tell stories about things that they've happened, just, oh yeah, my ex-girlfriend was crazy, you know, this person at work is crazy. They just characterize more than just a couple people in their past as being crazy. That's a flag, because you got to start to wonder, you seem to be having a lot of crazy people in your life. That's concerning. And acting victimized when you bring up their behavior. That's also that martyr complex experience. So if somebody, when you say, hey, you know, you did this and I didn't like it, or that didn't feel good, and they not only don't receive that feedback with some care and concern, but instead are like, oh, why is it always me? Why are you always attacking me? It's just like I can never do anything good for you. That kind of stuff. That if that's a regular occurrence, that's a harmful person. So this list, as I say at the bottom here, which you couldn't see on the screen, this list isn't exhaustive and it's not proof positive. It's just something to watch out for. These are flags, and you really want to do your due diligence on it and watch for these kinds of behaviors. If you're not sure if something's happening, or if you're not sure about what's going on, pay attention to your gut and your instincts. One of the rules of thumb I give people is, if you're around this person and you routinely feel bad about yourself, that's an indication that this person is harmful for you. So here's another slide. This is all part of my Power Embodied training, which is all about how to have good communication skills. But I had to add a component on difficult people because we behave differently with them. We need to have different rules for specifically harmful people. The best apology is changed behavior. So some people will do that sweet and sour and apologize, but never change anything. That's a problem. The number one red flag, if you notice anything in particular to watch out for, it's this. Your attempts to connect and establish a two-way street have no or little effect on them. Healthy, regular people respond positively to authentic vulnerability. Unhealthy people use it against you. So if you're being vulnerable, if you're saying, gosh, you know, I'm sad or I'm scared, I don't really know what to do here, and somebody's coming back at you and using it as an attack, well, why are you so weak all the time? That is not something that healthy, regular people do. Healthy, regular people, when you authentically come from the heart and say, that just really hurt my feelings, healthy people will say, oh my gosh, well, that wasn't what I intended. I'm so sorry. Here's what I meant, or let's work it out, or tell me more, or something. They will show compassion and concern. Unhealthy people will not. And that is the biggest red flag to watch out for. So you have these red flags and these things to notice, and that's useful, but then what do you do about it, right? Especially if it's in family. How do you deal with these people if you can't just cut them out? Because if you can cut them out and that serves you, I totally give you permission to do that. Harmful people, in my experience, don't really change. They don't stop being harmful just because their harmful behavior is pointed out to them. Usually they have some kind of possibly personality disorder, or I don't know, they're just real invested in being a jerk, and we don't need to be the jerk whisperer. We just need to get away from them. But if you can't get away from them because they're a part of a family gathering, or they're a part of a circle of friends where that's what you're stuck with right now, or whatever, you need some strategy about how to deal with them. So some of the strategy adaptations that I have, and again, this is a part of a bigger training. One of the main things to recognize is that you have a difference in ability. You're more powerful than they are. Even if their tactics are very powerful, they have little to no ability to adapt and change tactics. They pretty much have this one strategy. Again, think of some of the examples we have in current politics. There's pretty much one playbook, and they can't vary from it. So knowing that that's what they're going to do, learn to adapt around it. Also, change your expectations. And this is one that's really often hard for people. It is absolutely unrealistic to expect any change or shared concern for your needs from people who are harmful. They aren't going to get better. They aren't going to start caring. It's not because something's wrong with you. It's just how they are. And it's like they have a calloused heart or something like that. That's a metaphor. It's not literal, but it's not going to change, and it's not a flaw in you. You just need to get away from them or change how you relate to them and stop expecting them to be different, and just make whatever changes you need to make, understanding that they're going to behave this way. So when I talk about having a different goal, I say that in communication, we always have one of three goals: connection, negotiation, or protection. With harmful people, the goal is always protection first. And be crystal clear on your walk away and safety conditions, your deal breakers. Absolutely. Before you start dealing with any of these difficult or harmful people, know what you will and you won't put up with. And it's as simple as, if you don't stop yelling, I'm going to hang up the phone. And you don't yell it at them. You don't need to scream it. It's just a condition. If you're going to insist upon talking about this kind of political stuff that I don't want to talk about, I'm going to leave the table. It's not to be a threat. It's not incendiary. It's just know your walkaway conditions, and you can either verbalize them or you can just act on them. But this is important because, again, they're not going to change. So do what you need to do to protect yourself. You don't have to sit in a toxic stew just to be polite, because they don't care anyway. It's not going to make a difference. And they might complain about it and they might slander you, but they're going to do that anyway. They're going to find a reason and a way to be a jerk. So it doesn't really matter. So here are a few resources for folks. There's a book called Stop Walking on Eggshells that's phenomenal. There's another book called Psychopath Free. There's a lot of books about narcissists, antisocial personality disorder, and there's some about borderline. BPD Central is a great resource if you're curious about borderline personality disorder, Narcissism Survivor, and this is a wonderful article about gaslighting. So you should pause the screen there if you want to read more about that. So that is, I know, a super brief overview, and a few of you have been watching. So I hope that's helpful and some good information for you if you're wondering if there's a harmful person in your life. And it's also good for you to kind of get clear on whether or not you're doing some of these things. Again, if you're watching this, you're probably not. But it's always good to ask yourself, am I caring about other people's needs and feelings? Do I have empathy? My guess is, again, if you're asking, probably yes, because if you do these things, you aren't interested in changing. So for this holiday season, I really encourage you to do your best to take care of yourself, protect yourself from people who don't feel good to you. You don't need to stay with them. You don't need to stay around them. Limit your time with them and try not to take them so seriously, because again, they are very limited in terms of how they can change and adapt and what they can do. So just see them for who they are and adapt around them. I hope that's helpful. Please leave me any questions or comments. If you're interested in more training like this, let me know. There's going to be more coming from me soon. I've just been getting used to living in San Diego and setting up a new life. So there'll be more forthcoming. And also, if you're in the San Diego area, just FYI, I have a couple Enneagram classes that I'm co-facilitating with the wonderful Stephanie Davis. Those are coming up on December 8th, and they're going to be in La Jolla. So message me if you're interested in that. If you're anywhere in the SoCal area and you want to come join us, learn about the Enneagram, or further your learning if you already know it. All right, thanks, and have a great holiday season.